You're listening to the greatest multifamily investment advice show. My name is Adam Ras, and now I'm talking everything multifamily for an in-depth conversation, and I will be diving deep into raising capital, deals, and underwriting process. Welcome back to the greatest multifamily advice show. Today we have Brady McDonald, real estate investor out of Barrie in Ontario, focus on US and Canada, Ontario, multifamily investor, commercial, different strategies, including self-storage. So I would like to start with, please help me to welcome our guest. How are you, Brady?
I'm doing great, Adam. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us today, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to having this chat with you.
So let's start
to your following.
Sure. I would like to start with the beginning on your real estate journey. From real, I'm not like everyone start with single family and then jump. So what was the beginning for you?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we were working full time back in 2014, and Christy was a real estate appraiser. I was I worked for Hydro One in Ontario here as a utility arborist instructor. So I actually taught people how to climb trees and rope and rig them down around hydro lines.
Yeah.
And I also had a side hustle. It was called Town and Country Tree Service. So, I was already 12 years in on that corporate life, and I was just looking for something more. So funny enough, we were looking at buying land and developing storage facilities, realized that's way too unattainable at that point. But what happened was we ran into a guy his name's Andrew Brennan. So he was a full-time real estate investor at the time. Christy was doing appraisal for him, and the guy had 87 doors. And we're like, and he did this full time. We're like, holy wow, it's possible. Like once I knew he could do it, then I knew I could do it. So I read the books, of course, like figured out the strategy. The strategy was to do a BRRRR on duplex conversions, second suite conversions in Barrie. That just came out. So, we bought the first property. I renovated it all myself. We refinanced it, got most of the capital back, and proved the strategy. And then from there, we built a construction company, property management company. We literally just, one person at a time, one deal at a time. And we started doing two deals at a time and so forth. In that first year, we ended up doing 12 deals. Seven of them we funded ourselves, and we realized we needed to we're going to hit that financial wall. So we started offering our services to joint venture partners. So, so we did like probably 80 or 90 duplex conversions, and then went into coach houses were permitted in Barrie. So that's like a detached single family home in the backyard of like a tiny house in the backyard of all of these properties. So then the strategy changed to buy a single family home, convert it to a duplex, build a coach house in the backyard, refinance it as a legal triplex, and away we went. But yeah, we were doing 25 to 30 deals, still working full time, hustling like yourself, and really just getting ahead. And until we realized, what could be possible if we focus all of our time and energy into the real estate. And so in 2017, I quit my job, and it's been a good journey. Now we're into I guess the difference, what happened naturally over the years was, we started with the duplex conversions. We were kind of forced into the next strategy because the math just stopped making sense. So we're like, what are we going to do? So that was lucky that the coach houses were permitted. So that was like the next sweetest strategy. We came in and we were the first ones in Barrie to do it. We built probably more in Barrie than anybody else. We built probably 50 of them. And that was like amazing. And that was really good for like 2 years. And then the numbers just kept on going up and up and up. And I was like, okay, we got to like get more creative here. What do we do next? And that's where we started buying houses with on large lots. We'd knock the houses down, sever them into 2 or 3 lots, and build purpose-built duplexes with coach houses in the backyards of all lots. So we'd basically building 9 units side by side, right?
In just one lot.
On one basic, it was on one original lot. We severed them, so now you have 3 lots with 3 triplexes, right? Basic, yeah. So, and we did that because again, it's the economy of scale. It's maximizing the use of the land, refinancing. You can get a commercial finance mortgage on that, right? And of course, it's going to cash flow like crazy. So we did that, but in December, I'll back up a little bit more. So we went to Costa Rica. COVID was crazy, 2010. In 2011 winters, 2020, 2021. And so we were just like, hey, we got to get out of here. So we went to Costa Rica for the winter, and it was great. We did tons of deals still. We're active, healthy, whatever. We came back and they locked us. We were actually on a limo on the way back from Buffalo to our house in April, May, and they locked us down again. And I said to Christy, whatever we do, we're not, I'm not, we're going to go away next winter, but we're going to go somewhere where we can actually create opportunity for ourselves.
Okay.
So December, we decided we were going to go to Florida. And we didn't know, and we were going to expand into the United States, right, with our real estate investing businesses and portfolio. But we didn't know the strategy. We didn't know anybody, right? We didn't know what strategies worked, but I went to this one mastermind, and I liked the mastermind because it talked about multi-family, like repositioning apartment buildings, flipping, wholesaling, self-storage, land development, period. All these different types of strategies. And it was a great opportunity to meet rock star real estate investors in America that are doing it, right?
Yeah.
Which is really important. And so from there, we decided, okay, well, we're going to get it. We're just going to flip a bunch of houses so we can stop bringing Canadian money over the border. And we're going to get into self-storage. And, fast forward 3 months, we took down a piece of land. We closed on it. We did a syndication where we raised $3.5 million. We did that in two weeks. It's a $28 million deal. New construction, self-storage deal. So 109,000 square feet, net rentable. Yeah. And the plan is to build that, stabilize it, refinance it, get the capital back and hold it and rent it, and let it cash flow for a while. And we got another one, actually, we just firmed up today as well.
That's great. I think one of the issues right now you brought up is the cross-border business in US. What was the upside for you to move on to the US market, especially on the South States? And also, what was the objections you handled with your investors?
Yeah, so I mean, the motivation was really like just the scalability. Well, one, we were going to go down there anyway, right? For the winters. I don't love the winters, and I don't particularly love our government. So we're going to go down there, and I'm just like, there's got to be easier ways to, there's got to be more opportunity somewhere. I was just looking for opportunity really to grow the business because, like we've done pretty well. We've done 25 to 35 deals a year, but it's still hard to scale. I mean, I don't know too many people that are doing hundreds, but when you go to the States, there's all kinds of people doing hundreds of flips and that are putting together thousands of units a year that are doing, these massive self-storage deals, like tons of them, right? It's just, and there's obviously a reason. So, we went down there to figure that one out, and it's quite evident. Like financing is easier. Like the construction companies are massive. They can take that, they can create these, there's just so much more capacity. And the mindset of a lot of these people their capitalism. Like they just love making money. And, when you can partner with the right people, I mean, the potential is really endless down there.
What about your investor? What was biggest objections you heard and you handled with your Canadian conservative investors?
Yeah. So, we have to be honest. So when we raised all that capital, most of that came from Americans.
Oh, okay.
We did set up the PPM to accept Canadian dollars. It probably wasn't worthwhile because it cost us like 20 grand to raise 150. But I think part of it is like when you're talking, I utilize social media obviously a lot to kind of build my brand, to build trust with people so people are aware of what we're doing. And when you just instantly get into the United States, nobody knows what you're doing. They don't understand it. You haven't like warmed them up to the strategy, the theories, the risks, how to prevent, like all these, like all the information that they need to know to confidently do it. I haven't talked to anybody about it. So, obviously right away with like, there's a lot of objections being a Canadian trying to invest cross border. Right. And I mean, we're already conservative as it is, right? Let alone trying to get them across the border. Right. So yeah, we didn't put except all that money, that 3.5 million, except for the 150,000 came from Americans. So
you had a lot of pushback already from the Canadian side.
I wouldn't say pushback. I would just say, like, we put a bunch of people on a webinar. It didn't take very long to fill it up with American money. So I didn't even have to
Okay.
really try it, to
Okay.
be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, like, now that we've been there for 6 months and people are recognizing that we are successful, we have a track record. I think that's half the battle with,
Yeah.
I think this next deal will do a lot better job. And we're bringing Canadian money over, especially with the economic states, parking it in asset classes like multifamily, like self-storage. Those are some of the best asset classes you can rely on in in like a downturn, and what we're probably approaching, right?
Yeah, I had a guest before on self-storage about this. Like the market is already on Canada's really limited on self-storage. It's like the different whole story on the US. Like I'm not sure if like 60 self-storage all over on Canada. No, 120 in total self-storage facility in Canada. Where in the US, maybe this is gonna be in just one state. So
yeah, there's thousands and thousands and thousands. Like there's thousands being built right now. It's a massive. It's like, I forget how many $billion market it is, but it's like $4 or $5 or $6 billion market.
Yeah. It's a different story as I mentioned in Canada and US on the self-storage, and not many investor have the guts to start it because they don't understand it. Is not common strategy, but in my opinion and your opinion, it's better than multifamily. You don't have toilet to deal with. No
Yeah, you have
expenses.
2 toilets.
Yeah. Different. The expenses is different. It's like you're mainly looking for the utilities and some security, and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and what's really nice about it too, like especially right now. I mean, just because with the economy of the world and the potential recession that we're dealing with, like what happens in these types of markets where like businesses are closing or people are losing their houses and downsizing, they don't sell all their stuff, right? They keep their stuff, they keep the inventory, they keep all the files, they put it all into storage. So you're going to much more apt to pay $150, $200 a month for a storage unit versus selling it all, right? So it actually performs better in these types of markets. It's one of the asset classes that has never had a negative blip in downturn.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a really good place, and one of the reasons that we're, what I really love about it, because we do have a development background, is that we can build this, and when you get the benefit of the value creation as well as the long-term cash flow. Right. And the ability to be able to sell a business versus, of course, the residential stuff that, I've got a pile of.
I think the lesson here, Brady, I want to focus on is the transition you're making right now. It's not only guts. You have to have your own team. You cannot control everything. So I would like to highlight how you managed to build your trusted team. One of them is construction. Pipeline, partnership, guarantors, like how you managed to set up all of this within this last 6 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've all heard the term, your network is your net worth, right? And I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I didn't really, I heard that a lot when I was in Canada. I didn't really, believe it, to be honest. In the residential space, it's not as important in my opinion, but when you start getting into these types of deals and big stuff and you want to really grow and expand, the reality, like, it is super important. And funny enough, like a lot of the relationships that I created years ago from hiring high ticket coaching, all those relationships they're all Americans too, that I always hired. Like, those relationships are really paying off now because of, the track record that I've been able to produce. But when you look about, when I first went into the United States, I knew two things. I didn't know a strategy that I was going to pick, and I didn't know anybody. So those were my two goals, was to create relationships with rock star entrepreneurs and real estate investors down in America. So I went to that mastermind. That's what I created. I hired a coach.
Okay.
Right. I hired my coach, paid 30 grand for 6 months. and it's all about self-storage. The first 2 months, we didn't even talk about self-storage because we were down there. I was moving my kids from house to house to house, trying to build this business and get some, flipping these houses just to create some, US revenue. And like, we just focused on like, just not like letting everything crash and burn. But then when we got into self-storage, it's really not like the pieces of it are not much different than doing the developments in Ontario. Yeah. It's just on a grander scale, and you need to know different people.
100%.
Right. So it's just like figuring out who your players are. So, I brought him on as the GP to do these self-storage deals that I'm involved in. So I brought him on as an advisor because they've already got 9 new construction, brand new self-storage facilities in development in the US right now. I brought my cousin. He's from Texas, so he's an American. I figured I didn't know. I figured that I probably need some American to help guarantor the loan. Yep. He's got high income and high net worth. So I brought him. He's also an accountant, like a CPA. He's done syndications before. He is he owns a mortgage broker company with 40 agents. So the guy he has that level of detail that I don't have. And I need that in my team. When I'm raising, millions and millions of dollars, I'm not going to be the guy that has the fine detail to make sure everything's perfect. But I need to know that is still looked after. So he's that guy.
You're lucky, right? That this is your cousin.
Yeah, it's a huge, yeah. I mean, yeah. You can't pick your family, but if you could,
that's a perfect match.
Yeah. And then, so who else do we have on the team there? So we've got, so Tyler, myself, these 2 guys, and then we brought in another GP to help raise some capital.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there, these are some major components of any big deal, is like the construction, the guaranteeing the financing, and maybe the accounting aspect of it. Obviously, expertise with the development and the construction of it, and then raising capital. Those are some of the big pieces. But we also give GP equity out for finding land, or finding, say, I know some people do this exact same thing to bring, if it's multifamily and they bring me a big ass apartment building, right? Like, that's worth something, right? They could probably get an assignment fee. They could also get some GP equity, and we do the same thing for land, right? So you bring us the land, you bring us the money, you bring us expertise, you bring us the guaranteeing the loan. These are all pieces of the pie. I wasn't going to be able to do it all. All right. And I know, and if I'm going to scale doing 10 deals like this a year, I know that I can't do it all.
100%.
Right? So
100%.
Yeah.
I think my next question will be about your criteria now. You're focused only on self-storage, or you're working on different directions?
Yeah, so I'm focusing right now on self-storage. I do have a couple other irons in the fire. We set some roots down in Cape Coral, Fort Myers area. And I've created some, again, your network, created some great relationships with some really amazing developers and real estate investors down there, where we're packaging, putting together like packages of 10 properties, all brand new construction, right? Where we'll get them all built up. These guys literally GC it, they build it. They obviously take a bit of money on the new construction, but like the new construction cost down there is like $200 to $210 a foot. Right. Like here it's double that. So you can, there's a lot of money to be made in new construction down there. And of course, like, I don't like to do one of anything, so 10 is what I would prefer to do as a minimum, and make sure it works. And then after that, put packaging together of 100 houses, or, put a couple 100 units together. Those are a couple other, I feel there's a lot of opportunity with new construction, particularly where we are down there in Cape Coral.
I think you mentioned something really, I think make difference to any commercial real estate investor, which is coaching. The people here is not used to pay, and here's this numbers of paying 30,000, 40,000. Some of the coaching 75 per year. So what was the upside for you about this?
Oh, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it is an absolute no-brainer. So I actually do high ticket coaching like this, but there's no way that I could ever do it until I paid it. And like my first high ticket coach was, we created a system. Well, what we've really been done well at and been able to grow our portfolio is because we implemented systems, processes, checklists, forms, like all the internal business processes and stuff for real estate investors. A lot of investors don't have this stuff, right? So then it's hard to hire people because there's really nothing for the people to do. It's all up in your head. So we created a system called the Freedom Multiplier Systems for Lifestyle Real Estate Investors. Knew nothing about selling it, right? So I hired my coach, Michael Reese and Woods Davis. So two guys from the US. These guys have sold like 80 million at that point. They're probably well over 100 now, but of online stuff. So I hired them. I paid them 20,000 US. It was terrifying. It was the first time I ever did it. It was terrifying. I was trying to figure out if they're crooks or what they were, but like, anyway, it was, like their goal was really just to, figure out what my problem was now and how to solve it. Right. And what it was just to, create cash flow. So, and it worked. And again, when I talked about your network is your net worth, I'm really close friends with those guys now. And, when you're getting into a new market and like, if you want people to help you, you got to pay to play. Nobody's like, I don't just hop on phone calls and nor should most people just to like pick my brain. And it's unfortunate, it's just time is money. Right. So, you got to pay to play. And if you really want fast track to success, why wouldn't you go to the person doing exactly what you want, pay him so he's committed to you? Like having a free conversation, the person that you're trying to get information has got no commitment to you whatsoever. They will give you a piece of the pie, they'll give you tidbits, but they're not going to give you the nugget, right? You want the nugget. You want to turn decades into days.
100%.
Right? 100%. So, would I have gotten two $30 million self-storage deals done in 6 months? Hell no. Right? So, and you just think about it. Okay, it cost me $30,000 to put an extra $60 million of assets in my portfolio. Yeah. It's $20 million in equity. So, it's what's your return on investment? Do you want to, reinvent the wheel or, just make the wheel a little bit faster?
100% agree. 100% agree. I think my next question would be, you said that you're focusing now on Florida and in general. If I'm talking now about the challenges you have on the Florida market because of the inflation, and we're in the edge of a new recession and the new inflation and new spike of interest rate. What is the challenges now you're facing when you're underwriting deals in general and on the self-storage in particular?
Yeah. The deal that we did 3 months ago and the deal that we're doing now, it's like the numbers are very comparable, like as far as like this deal size and whatnot. But what we're doing, like how we're projecting it is obviously completely different. So for one, the lenders that were on the table for the first deal are now, a lot of those lenders are off the table for the construction debt. Right. So, where we could before, you could rely on a broker and he would know like the lenders that would do that construction loan. Now, a lot of those lenders are off the table. So, you could rely on the broker before. Now I'm relying on ourselves to really start creating relationships with these local banks throughout the US. So we're putting a lot of effort into creating, marketing campaigns and just like reaching out campaigns and follow-up campaigns to really start creating and building those relationships with these banks. Because these banks in the US are totally different than in Canada. You can actually create a relationship with the bank in the US. You can't, there's no relationships, maybe with some of the smaller ones, what are they called? Anyway, some of the small, I can't remember any of the smaller ones names. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in the US,
there's hundreds of banks there. So
yeah, in the US, you can literally there's people that own these banks.
Yeah. So
and you can get to those people, right? If you're a bigger player, and so you actually have the ability to create relationships. Anyway, so that's one big thing is that a lot of those lenders are going to be harder to find for the construction debt. But what we're doing for the underwriting for raising the capital is I think you really just have to acknowledge that we don't know what the future holds. So what we're going to do on this next self-storage deal is for example, when we underwrote the last self-storage deal, we ran it at a 4.5 cap rate, five cap rate, even though they're trading in the 4 to 4.5 range.
Okay.
We were originally projected a 5, being conservative. We ran the numbers at a 5.5, knowing that they're trading under 5. This time going around, we're running the numbers at 5.75 as like our best case scenario. Even that's quite high compared to what they're trading at now. And then we're also showing a 6.25 cap rate at a refi. Okay. So we're showing like, where we think we are now, where we think we should be, and worst case scenario. And realistically, they're all, even worst case scenario is really good. Trading at a 6.25 cap, which is a lot higher than they are right now. So we're doing that, and of course, increasing the interest rate to a much higher rate. And the number, the IRR is like 10% difference from the last deal to how we're underwriting it now, but there's still 20%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, at worst case scenario. So just trying to be conservative.
Okay. So back to this point, I think one of the things we have to highlight here is what is the upside for you of as a self-storage pre-construction or self-storage buy and hold? Why, especially on this market, when we mentioned that all of the lenders is changing their policy and guidelines, no one knows what's going to happen in the next 6-7 months, at least the next 3 months. So are you looking for more like buy and hold or only focusing on pre-construction?
Yeah, so we're focusing only on pre-construction. Okay. And the reason being is just because there's so much value to be created in building the deal, right? I mean, for example, like we build these, once it's stabilized and the value would be say $28 million, the cost for us is $18 million. So there's a $10 million value creation there in our equity creation in the development, where you're not going to get that in in an existing. I mean, obviously you can increase the rents and manage it properly. There's some value creation there, if you buy an existing, but that's just our strategy. And I mean, I'm just a big proponent on I just want to do one strategy and really just get good at it, because the nice thing about that too is when you're on social media, you're talking to people, they get so used to your deal type that you're not, that when you do go and ask them for money or I'll give them an offering on a deal, that they understand it already, right? Yep. It's you're not changing it up all the time. Like it would be confusing for an investor if I went to my investors and started pitching them, large multifamilies, because it's different underwriting, it's different explanations, different risks, different, like the strategy is just different. Yeah. Right. So that's where we've just always just been very niche as to what our strategy is, and we just stick to it.
Right now is the main, as you mentioned, is only self-storage. So one of the things is I would like to ask my investors, when you started, you were looking only for friend and family. What was the transition for looking for money from friends and family to now? I think you're looking for credit investors, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Accredited investors only. Yeah.
So how you managed to do the transition, again, based on the experience of the team and.
Yep. Yeah. It's, I mean, again, it's really leveraging the relationships in the US is what we're doing to raising that capital. Okay. The other thing too is friends and family, we've done 120, 110 joint ventures, and all of those joint venture partners, they all forked out $150,000 to $300,000. Yeah. Right. So they just, I just haven't really had to tap into I just have to be honest, I just haven't put a lot of work into talking to them about it. Yeah. But I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, the deals, especially right now, deals are hard to come by in Ontario. So, if they have extra capital or have equity created, which, I mean, if you're in real estate in the last 3 years, you do, then it's either going to sit in the bank and rot, or, with inflation, or you can invest it in something stable, like some sort of commercial multifamily, something, whether it's in the United States or in Canada, it doesn't really matter, but at least it's going to perform, right? Because all of our investors, I guarantee you, they all have 150 to 500,000 sitting in the bank or in line of credits, doing absolutely nothing, right? Yeah. So, it's probably something that I need to get on and start talking to those people about getting their money moving and working for them.
100%, 100%. I would like to I'm gonna stop on this because I was thinking about something. I'm gonna cut this. I was trying to ask you. I was trying to ask you about something, but I forgot.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's about the permitting. I'm gonna ask a question now. So you mentioned that you have on your team already this relationship with construction company. I think one of the subjects always is the pre-development stage. How you manage to have this stage aligned, especially that you're focused on only on development, but I'm talking more about the pre-development when you're focusing on permitting, dealing with zoning and all of this. So what was your process to deal with this kind of stage?
Yeah, I know that's a really good question. And so what, again, it's kind of relying purely on the right people that have done this before. So we've got a guy, part of our team, he's our lead consultant. He's personally owned like 90 of these self-storage deals, and he's developed over 300 of them.
Yeah.
So he's got a company that, we work with very closely, right, when we're looking at land that's just raw dirt and figuring out what the zoning is, what the permitted uses are, what the size is, how we can maximize the use of the land, what's the, retainage, like the water retention pond size requirements, what's the, all of this. So we have weekly meetings with this company and analyzing deals. We have a Monday board where we're just like, I've got a full-time acquisition specialist. He's just jamming properties on there. He's doing basic feasibility with regard associated to demand and supply and demand, and other facilities that are existing in the area, and other projects that are in development. So we're really relying on him to come up with, and what we're trying to do is find land where we don't have to rezone it. Yeah. Right. So that is a huge thing. But, because I know, like, one of my friends is actually building a self-storage facility, a big one here in Barrie, and he's been 4 years working on this thing. And,
because
there's
lots of
zoning, permitting, uses, they're gonna break ground this summer. But our deals in Houston, the nice thing about Houston is that it's wide open. There is no zoning, so you can literally commercial. You can just you can get conditional use. So you just apply and just they'll approve it. And so what that makes it a lot easier. So then this lead consultant, they work with their engineering and architect teams in that local municipality. Who also knows the municipality and knows the rules and the people in it. And they will work through permitting and making sure that the use approvals are done. We usually do that right after closing, and that'll take 4 to 6 months, and then we'll have permit and be in the ground. So again, totally different than in Canada. Yeah. It takes 4 years. You can get done in 6 months there, and in the right spots, and which is a huge thing when you're factoring in carrying costs, associated to these types of projects.
I think the main focus here, and as you mentioned, all of what is happening here, that you're bringing professional players to your game to make it not decades, just months or years, because this is the only way to scale your business.
100%. It's the only way to mitigate risk. Like, I mean, when you compare it to what I'm doing in Ontario, like, I was the person that found the land. I realized I knew the planning, the planning bylaws and the setbacks and the frontages and the minimum lot size and all the stuff. I would literally sever the lots. We would do all this stuff ourselves, and it's just not scalable. And it's just like, it'd be way too risky for me to do this. Realistically, probably even in a different city, right? But like, certainly for these bigger deals, you need to rely on experts, right? Especially when you're raising capital from LP investors. Like, you have a massive responsibility not to screw up.
100%.
And one way to really mitigate the risk of screwing up is to hiring experts. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's your job, is just putting the best team together.
100%. My final question will be a fun one. How you can define your superpower?
My superpower is just working my ass off. That's about it. I usually will I will outwork most people, but one thing I'm going to tell you this right now. I found a new superpower, and
Which
and
is
it's which is doing like really hard physical fitness, mental toughness challenges. So when I did the
okay.
75 hard, so I did the 75 hard in 2019. Okay.
Okay.
And like up until this point, I was probably, drinking too much, partying too much, not looking after my body,
Hmm.
I would like realistically, like I'd probably have like 5 to 6 beers every single night, or 5 to 7. It's just that's just the lifestyle we had.
Okay.
And I heard about this 75 hard. My buddy did it. I told my wife, this is a requirement. There's no drinking. You have to stick to a diet. You work out twice a day. One has to be outside, drink a gallon of water, blah, blah, blah. She's like, she just laughs her butt off. She's like, there's no way you
I
can do that.
I never heard
Yeah,
it. It's called 75 hard.
the 75 hard.
Okay. I'm gonna look for it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really hard. I mean, it's
Yeah.
freaking hard. I mean, it's most people. So it's literally, you have to do this for 75 days, right?
Okay.
Work out twice a day. One has to be outside. So I told her the requirement, and the one part was the not drinking, and she just laughed her butt off. And I'm like, no, I'm like, it's such a hard challenge that I'm committed to it. So I did that and absolutely crushed it. But what I realized, like you realize, like you do all the things, it teaches you, it's mental toughness challenges. So it teaches you to do the things you don't want to do, regardless.
Okay.
Right. So like how much, like you never really want to work out twice a day. You definitely don't want to do it in the snow. You don't want to be waking up early, reading the personal development book. You don't, you want to cave and have that beer. You want to, like, you have to continue to do all the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And when you practice this, it's like another really good book is called Atomic Habits. It's really like consistently doing the things, like so often that it just becomes a habit. And so what happened was I got so focused. I was like, so in tune. I was like, obviously mental clarity was amazing. And I got so focused. My deal size went from like $100,000 equity deals to $1 million, like just from that. And then what happened was we went to Costa Rica, and I was super, it was super great there. And I came home and I started hanging around the same people. And what happens when you hang around the same people? You're having, you're drinking too much again. I was drinking too much again, having conversations that didn't matter, talking about sports and stupid stuff. No productive conversations. It was just back to the buddies again, right? Completely non-productive. And then in November, I got fed up with it. I went back to my old coach. And I was telling you about your network is your net worth. And like I go to this guy. I'm like, dude, I want to do this 100-mile relay run from Key Largo to Key West. You want to do it with me? He's like, dude, we're actually doing Ironman training. Ironman. I'm like, oh man. I remember hearing my buddy telling me about Ironman training at the gym one time. And I'm like, this guy's freaking nuts. Like, there's no way I could do that. But at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so I literally, so I train, I'd never swam like that before, never biked on a road bike ever. And so what it is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56-mile bike ride, and a half marathon at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, trained hard, absolutely crushed it. But during that was the entire time, like I started this in November. In December, I went to Florida. I went to that mastermind, and I hired the coach Joe, and I built this business. And like our deal went from $1 million equity deals to $10 million equity deals. Yeah. So if you want a superpower, get really good at doing hard shit. Like when you can mentally be tough and do the things that your brain, do the right things that your brain is always telling you, that little voice in your head and say, oh, don't worry about it, or you can do it tomorrow. Like when you do these hard things, you have to do it regardless of what that little voice up there says. Agreed. And that the benefit spins into business, it spins into your relationships, your work ethic, how you're parenting your kids, you name it. Like, it's just, honestly, that's the superpower that I rely on right now.
Which is great. The persistence and doing as a hard saying on the hard time. My last one will be how people can follow up your success.
Yeah. So sorry, say that again. How they can follow up?
How the people can follow up with your success on social media? How they can find you on social media?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, Brady at Brady BKREI. On Instagram, Brady.McDonald84. And we got all kinds of content being dropped on there. We got masterminds, helping people helping Canadians invest in the US, giving them shortcuts to success. We got all kinds of good stuff that we're trying to help people with. So we'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
That's perfect. Thanks a lot again for today. And we're really happy to bring you again to the show, especially to talk more about self-storage. I found it's really important to focus on the subject. And yeah, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adam. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.